Welcome to Vanessa and Sue Tech Talk for the week of August 23rd on this recording. We're going to be talking about some really interesting things this week. One of them we're really excited to share with you. As of today, we have released an episode that is entitled American Mom Takes on the Taliban, Rescuing the Afghan All-Girls Robotics Team and What's Next. That is literally episode 88, and it is hot because it was just posted this morning. So we want to start with that conversation or that topic. Allyson Reneau is the American heroine mom, superwoman who is helping Afghan girls and women basically escape the situation that's happening in Afghanistan. She is the mom of 11 children, 9 of them being girls. So this really hits home for her. She has had a relationship with the Afghan all-girls robotics team since 2019, I believe, Sue. Is that what she said? I believe a few.
There's been different reports. I think she had her first contact, or they came to the U.S. in 2017. But yes, her connection really built in 2019.
So it may have been in the 2017. They had come over. She helped them come over to Washington, D.C. to compete in a STEM competition because they had some trouble initially getting to, come over. And that's when her relationship with these girls started. She has since then maintained, in touch with them, touching base with them, giving them support, moral support, mom support from the U.S. since then. And as she heard of what was happening in Afghanistan and the U.S. Presence fading, she had this spidey sense that she needed to act and get in touch with them. And as the Taliban took over, she just kind of went into action and started reaching out to people. And Sue, what I loved about her in her interview is that she is so humble and vulnerable. And she said, I'm not well connected. I just happen to want to help these girls. And I didn't let anything get in my way. And I just started calling and texting and moving. And that's how she's gotten this far. And as of our recording with her yesterday, 10 girls and 2 adults are in Qatar and safe and have been evacuated from Kabul or Afghanistan proper. So Sue, what are your thoughts? Because I loved speaking with her and I loved her energy.
I did too. I loved everything that she's doing. I'm so grateful that, I spoke with her in the morning before our interview, and she had been up since 3:30 in the morning. I think she started with Fox and Friends, and she just kept going throughout the day. But yes, she is such a shining example of, we all get that spidey sense or that gut instincts that we want to do something, and we'll have a good idea and we'll think, oh, it's crazy. What difference can I make? And then we get interrupted and other things come up, and then we don't end up doing anything. And that was not Allyson. Allyson felt a commitment to these girls, even though her relationship with them is primarily through text message. And she just said, I'll take the tools that I have at my disposal, which is my phone, my grit, and my network, and I'll activate those 3 things. And sometimes that is really all it takes, is like guerrilla social good warfare, as you just get in there and you do what you can. And that really resonated with the contacts that she did have, including the pivotal contact, which was a woman she knew at the U.S. Embassy in Qatar. And I think it was the U.S. Embassy, actually. Did she say?
I believe it was. Okay. Yes, it was an old roommate that I think that was just mentioning to her what she was doing. She actually had booked a ticket herself to go to Qatar. And she wound up not needing to go because her ex-roommate or old roommate was in the U.S. Embassy there and was willing and able to help. So
yes. So we don't want to give the whole episode away because it's such a great one. We want you guys to listen to it. But again, our podcast is all about what women can do and using our voices. And Allyson Reneau is a tremendous example of that. And we all can be doing more than we think. That's the takeaway for me. So definitely listen to episode 88 and every other awesome episode of the WEGRAF podcast.
And then I just also want to call out, she did share some links with us that are, if you go to the YouTube video and in the show notes of the podcast, you'll have links that you're able to check her out and some of the funding pages that she has. So all of the money, 100% of the funds raised is going to this effort of bringing women and girls to safety, basically, whether that be here in the States, whether that be with different diplomats and countries that are surrounding Afghanistan that are opening their borders to these people, because it's very harrowing what's happening.
She has a GoFundMe page and a Facebook page to raise funds for this initiative. And her next, she's not stopping. Allyson's take is that the entire robotics team will be eventually evacuated, hopefully safely. That's her gut. Of course, we don't know this, but that's her hope and expectation. So she is now turning her attention to helping professional women in Afghanistan. That's sort of the next wave of women who are targets of the Taliban regime, because they are educated, they have voices, and they are leaders, and they are now hiding for their lives and looking for ways to get out. So that is Allyson's next initiative, that she's trying to figure out the logistics and partners and people that can help evacuate professional women. And she specifically mentioned lawyers and judges, but we'll definitely stay abreast of that and keep you guys updated as well, because I'm sure as things unfold, there'll be other opportunities for all of us to pitch in whatever way, shape, or form we're able to. So to be continued. Yeah.
Yes.
What other tech topics do we have? Are you ready to move on to?
Well, Sue, yeah, I do. And since we're speaking of this, I just think I have one that resonates. Clubhouse actually has removed any personal information of user accounts in Afghanistan as out of an abundance of caution and a safety measure. And I believe there are some other social platforms that have done the same, but basically they have reset tens of thousands, it says in this article, user bios and photos, and made their accounts more difficult to be searchable. And it won't affect their accounts. And if that person wants to reverse what they've done, they can do that. But they've done this, again, just out of an abundance of caution and to help people who have accounts through their platform. So I thought that was great. And obviously anything that anybody can do to help families over there. We talk about women and girls, but anyone, because not everyone is as fortunate as others that might have contacts and connections and networks that they can tap into. So anything that we can do as a humanity to help these people is a good thing.
Vanessa, have you been on Clubhouse since this all went down? I'm wondering if people are having conversations on Clubhouse about Afghanistan. I'm sure there are. I'm sure there are, but my question being, I'm wondering if people within the country are able to do that, and that's part of why Clubhouse is taking down the identifying data. But
I think that it's before the Taliban went in there, I'm assuming there were a lot more voices doing that. I am sure that there are conversations surrounding what's happening now. As media outlets are reporting and we're seeing, the Taliban has basically said, hey, we've changed. We have a new way of doing things. This is all a PR campaign, and they're very, very savvy with social media and trying to change the image that they have acquired over several years, right? So this was also, played into Clubhouse's decision into, helping these people and their identities. So basically, to answer your question, I do not know if anybody from Afghanistan is still there in that platform speaking out. And if they are, again, I don't know what, apart from the measure that Clubhouse has done to make searching for particular people more difficult, I don't know about, anything else. Like if a person's speaking, their voice is still going to be their voice. If it's recognized, if somebody calls them by name, and there are a lot of different nuances that haven't been covered in this article, at least. All we can do is really hope and pray that,
Yeah, I just thought about that because I used to be very active on Clubhouse, and I haven't been in several months. And, obviously this is a very timely topic, and be interesting to hear what kinds of information is able to come out of Afghanistan via that platform and what's being said right now. So I might be checking into Clubhouse later on today. See.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, should we move on from Afghanistan for this particular moment? Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay. So I had a couple of stories that I found this past week that I thought were really interesting that are related specifically to children. Vanessa's the mom of a beautiful baby and a beautiful, is she a kindergartner officially as of today?
Today was the first day of pre-K.
Pre-K.
So, okay. I'm not crying, you're crying.
Well, I'm sure it'll be wonderful and it's a slippery slope. And before you know it, no, I won't say it. I won't say it. We'll be sending her off to college.
Please don't.
Anyway, it's fun. It's, in fact, I was out for a bike ride with my daughter Kayla yesterday, who is about to start her first official adulting job. And we were talking about the first day of school and how much fun that was over the years and figuring out who your friends are in your classes and all the things. So you have a lot of fun things ahead of you. So
yes,
but going all the way back to preschoolers, I read this really interesting scientific report, which is a journal, Scientific Reports. A study shows that touchscreen time can be harmful to toddlers because it may diminish their attention span. And so I thought this was very relevant because obviously the children that we are raising now are digital natives. They were practically born with an iPhone in their hand or a tablet. But at-home tablet use apparently has been on the rise even before the pandemic. It was up between 28 and 63% for kids ages 3 and 4. And that is over a time span starting in 2013 to today. And a small study, and this was a very small study, 40 children, but it showed that touchscreen use is correlated to reduced ability to resist distraction. And this applies to kids 12 months to 3.5 years old. They used an eye tracker to observe how quickly computer screen pop-ups diverted the toddler's attention. And the kids who averaged more than 10 to 15 minutes per day, which doesn't sound like very much to me, had a tougher time resisting the distraction than those who spent little or no time on a smart device. Further study is needed to determine if this means that kids have a greater difficulty concentrating or if they're just learning to multitask at a really early age. So, mom of a toddler, what are your thoughts about that?
Isn't interesting. I'm trying to think of the behaviors that I've observed with Anderson, which is our pre-K daughter. We try to limit screen time, but to your point, 15 minutes a day, I know it's more than that just because during the pandemic, we were two working parents, working from home with two babies in the house and not much help. So we had games, we had educational TV shows, and it wasn't all day, but there were certain parts of the day where that was what was going to make her happy. And that was going to allow us to do what we needed to do for work. I will say that whenever she gets an alert or there's something that pops up on the screen while she's on it, she's very quick to just move it out of the way. So there is that. However, I do feel that this all ties into the instant gratification, right? They know what they want, when they want, and how they want it, and they want it now. And sometimes we have Veruca Salt moments, where mommy, I want to do that. Let's do this now, So I think that, more so than the distraction piece of it, because again, it's from what I've seen, she is very, and again, she is 4 years old. So I think the age also plays a part in this, but she is very good about just moving whatever it is out of the way and continuing to focus on what she's doing. The other piece of it though, the no patience, basically. You're really working on patience right now, and that things can't happen exactly when you want them to happen.
Except when they can happen exactly when you want them to happen. It works, except when it doesn't. I think that's the problem, is that sometimes you can get things instantaneously. So why can't we do that all the time?
Well, exactly.
I think that crosses all ages. And it's funny because when my girls were small, I know there was a study that came out about Sesame Street and about children's television and how the flash rates on the television screen were questioned for the same reason, that the rapid rate of the flashing on the screen was believed by, and the results of studies showed that it did affect kids' attention. And in the intervening years, we have heard more about attention deficit disorders, attention deficit hyperactivity disorders, and things that have come more on, I would say, the child rearing radar over the past 20 years or so. So is there something there? Probably. However, we live in a digital world. The devices aren't going away.
No, exactly.
The need to rely on them. So it's then just becomes a question, I think, of being really mindful of how much time your child is on a device and realizing how short that time span maybe needs to be, and doing the best we can. We're all navigating through this because the technology, again, is evolving very, very quickly, but it's becoming part of us.
Agree.
Yeah.
And this is, we talk about technology, but this phrase, like, everything in moderation, that's
moderation.
ages old, but yes,
Yeah.
Defining what moderation is, and, a little bits at a time, I think are okay. And that's with most things, is when you have that excessive, use or what have you. So, yeah.
I'm glad that people are thinking to study this too, right? Because at the end of the day, it's the research and the information that we get from this that will empower us as parents to know how much is too much and how to navigate the realities of technology with our kiddos.
Absolutely. Well, you had another article about some kiddos and some education and soft skills, right?
Yeah. So there is a preschool. It's a Singapore preschool, which is teaching kids, and they say that they're teaching kids soft skills that are needed for the digital age. And it's kind of interesting because it's a preschool called Treehouse, as I believe how it's pronounced. It's not spelled like we would think of that in English, but the idea is it's a preschool inspired by Silicon Valley, and it promises to teach kids how to survive the digital age. What does that mean? Well, the school's programs are themed by career paths like engineer, athlete, and chef. The programs teach children the skills needed for a given career path, like coding or cooking. And they also say they're teaching grit, adaptability, and empathy, which are the soft skills that will be needed more than hard skills, they say, in the digital age. So I have two thoughts about this. One is everything old becomes new again. Like for the longest time, it was like we have plenty of good soft skills, but we need to teach kids how to code and we need to teach all these hard skills. Well, now that we feel like we're getting a good handle on emphasizing STEM and STEAM, and I believe that that's very important, now we're going back to, but where are the soft skills? I got to go back to the soft skills. So that's one thought. And my second thought is I have to wonder a little bit if this isn't a bit of hyperbole, because I feel like any good preschool teaches empathy, teaches patience, teaches soft skills, right? Like that's the whole point of preschool. I know when my kids were little, they went to Montessori preschools where they got to play in the cook room or, pretend that they were chefs, or they got to do a lot of these same kinds of things that were like pretending to be a grown-up. And in the process of that, you learn a little bit about, a bank. I remember there was a little bank space. Or sitting at a pretend computer and playing with it. And so is it really that novel? What do you think?
So, it's interesting. Again, I'm going to say that age has a lot to do with it. I agree with you. I think that in preschool, we're actually really good about teaching kids, people's feelings and what we should do and what we shouldn't do and what's appropriate and good manners and those soft skills, right? What makes us, just relatable human beings to each other and just being kind. However, I think as kids get older, the emphasis on soft skills diminishes, and then they turn to like, okay, testing, and what do we have to fulfill to make sure that these kids test above this, and it all becomes this like, circle of what they have to do in order for their school's rating to be above a certain, number. And, I'm not saying that, again, I love our educators out there. I think that it's one of the hardest jobs. It's undervalued and underpaid. I don't think it's their fault. I think that they're just victims of the system, and that's broken in a sense. And I think that if we can incorporate some of those things that we do in preschool into, an age appropriate setting for each grade with the soft skills and empathy building, that's where we really need to be leaning toward, and screw the freaking tests already. Right. Now, I do think it's brilliant, though, this idea of, digital citizens and teaching them in this way where it's almost an intersection of the digital age and, practical life skills. And I think
Right.
as we do, or as the school does this, at least in my head, what we've talked about is like finding something you're really excited about and tying that into the tech world. And you have that intersection, right? You have
Mm-hmm.
that passion and the tech, and then the STEAM thing comes into play. So I love that piece of it.
Just make sure that your preschooler, while they're at preschool, isn't on a tablet or a touch screen device for more than 15 minutes a day, because then that will affect their ability to pay attention. I feel like
So again, going back to the age thing, what about us?
I know, right? Well, I
How
mean,
much screen time do we have a day? I mean, it is what it is, right? Like, this is the reality of our world. And
hopefully our
maybe
brains
we
are
need
done
to start
growing.
thinking of our technology as we build the hardware to,
Mm-hmm.
to address that issue. Like, what can they do in the back end to make it less triggering, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing I've done is I turn off my notifications. I don't have notifications on my computer because that is super distraction, just distracting. Anytime you have something pop up, it's like, pay attention to me. I've done that on my phone as well. Have you done that? Do you still have notifications pop up?
I no, I in any app I usually say no. And then if I
Yeah.
have to go back, if I want a notification from a specific app that I use often, I will go in there and I adjust the settings. But
Yeah.
Clubhouse was the worst on that
Yeah.
when we first downloaded it.
I know that was a
It was like
big,
every 5 seconds, and that is not an exaggeration. You were getting a ping because there's so many conversations going on at
right.
once. It
And you
was
just
overwhelming.
feel, yeah, it was overwhelming. It felt like, just because a conversation's going on does not equate to it's something that I need to be a part of, but you feel that way when you have the notifications popping up on your phone. Like, this must be something I'm supposed to pay attention to. Like, that's gut
Exactly.
instinct. It's not, maybe thought out that thoroughly. But anyway, for the preschool, if you're interested, it is called Treehouse, Trehaus. It is in Singapore, and it will set you back $22,680 a year to send your darling little digital native to this preschool. So I thought that was, interesting.
Well, kudos to Treehouse. I like their format and their plan. They're
It
putting
looks
into
really
action.
cute. Mm-hmm. It looks, I mean, all preschools look really cute to
Yeah,
me.
they do. Yeah, they do. I can go on a mom tangent about how cute, like, we went to open house yesterday and how cute the room is
I
and
know.
how pleased I was with like everything they're doing to be COVID safe and all, because there are obviously those concerns right now as a mom too. So
Right.
anyway, yes, absolutely. All right. Well, Microsoft had a little situation that I suppose has come out this morning as of this recording. Some default settings on a specific tool called the Power App, Microsoft Power App platform, which allows businesses to create applications themselves. So you don't have to be a super coder to do it, or formal experience coding. So they can create their own applications. It was, I'm going to say, breached to a level. Okay. And now this is how they're explaining it. Something on the back end was set to not be as secure as it was supposed to. So it was misconfigured to expose data. And there were 38 million people that were exposed, basically. So we're talking about names, email addresses, social security numbers, COVID-19 vaccination appointments, et cetera, that were made available. Now, as of right now, nothing nefarious has come from it, but it was something that they had to kind of nip in the bud and change the default setting for this personal information to not be accessible. And there's arguments of, okay, well, why wasn't that done to begin with? And then Microsoft is saying, well, the person building the app should have checked that before. Then there's the thought of, okay, well, if you are supplying this platform to people that don't need to be experienced coders, how would they know to do that? Right.
Right.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
organically. So check your settings. Make sure if you use the Microsoft Power App platform that, you have that adjust the setting to be private, to not allow the information or the data to go anywhere it's not supposed to go to.
Yes, cybersecurity is always a fun one to talk about. We just had the T-Mobile hack as well, right? Of 48 million users in the past couple of weeks. And I read that since the pandemic, the number of cybersecurity attacks has increased by 300%. And that's according to the FBI. So, I mean, this is an ongoing, we just have so many vulnerabilities because we have many places of intersection through the internet. So,
yeah. Well, again, if you check out the article, I have it on pulled up on Verge, but the organizations they've listed that have been affected are Ford, American Airlines, JB Hunt, and some state agencies in Maryland, New York City, and Indiana. So
it's starting to feel almost like not if you'll get hacked, but when and how badly.
Well, absolutely.
You know? Yeah.
It's like it's only a matter of time, right? And the severity will differ for each person, I'm sure. But yeah.
All righty. Well, I have a cool one that I want to share, and I just found this morning. This is researchers who have invented clothes that conduct Bluetooth and Wi-Fi to connect all of your different gadgets. And the conductive material on the clothes surface is made of stainless steel, and it's in a cone-shaped strip formation. The clothing can be washed like any other normal clothing. And not only does it connect your devices like smartwatches and your phone and other things, but it also will charge them. And it uses, I guess, the way that the radio waves are directed, there's not as much waste. I'm not going to describe this in great technical detail, but I will point you to the article. It's actually on Insider, Business Insider today. And today's date is August 24th. And so it directs the radio waves to the devices and outward, not inward towards your body, but it does it in such a way that you're not diffusing too much of that energy and wasting it, which is why all of our batteries on all of our devices need to be recharged all the time and why they go down so quickly, apparently. Big takeaway is that they're smart clothes. They can turn the wearer into a pseudo-human circuit board, effectively enhancing connectivity between your wearable devices. So pretty soon we're all going to be walking batteries, guys.
I have a lot of thoughts.
I
have a lot of thoughts here. So one, this kind of reminds me of a conversation we had with Billy Whitehouse with Wearable X, and some haptics technology she had with fitness wear, right? Like that, we had that conversation with her. So that reminds me of that. If you haven't checked that episode, Billy Whitehouse, I don't have the episode number handy, but just go to wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts and find her name. She's a great resource there for wearable technology. So you and I have had these conversations too, where I'm like, okay, these wearable things, what is it putting into our bodies? I mean, my husband has like, if he could have it on like all four limbs, he would. Like he has his two arms and he sleeps with these things on. I've gotten knocked in the head a few times. I complain.
They're not safe.
But if he could have it on both ankles, he would. And I always say, I'm like, are you not going to have like hands, in the future because of all the stuff, all of the waves going into your body? And although this is saying that, yes, okay, it's going out, not in, right? And it's going to be diffused. We're moms, and I'm a mom of babies. I'm constantly holding them, like, is it going to go to the people around me? Like, I don't want it to like shoot. I mean, again, I don't want to sound ignorant or, like, I mean, I'm thinking of this,
your baby.
Well, I'm thinking of this, like, again, as a movie, as I think of most things, but I'm like, okay, where is this stuff going? And I understand the reality of it. We talk about screen time. We talk about realities of like, okay, everyone has like a wearable technology attached to them in some way or form. You always have your phone. Like, just talk about your phone. It's not wearable, but you constantly have it in your bag that's on your body or in your pocket or what have you. What is that going to do in the future? What's going to come out that we're going to be talking about and covering in the future? So it's cool. It's interesting. It's definitely novel, right? But what is it doing to the people around us if it's not going into our bodies and we're not absorbing it? It's got to be absorbed somewhere.
Well, two thoughts about that. First of all, I want to share that the episode that Vanessa referenced with Billy Whitehouse, Wearable X Technology, is actually episode 9 of the We Get Really Up podcast. So take a listen to that one. Yep. And then I'm going to read this to you so it explains the technology a little bit. Bluetooth and Wi-Fi radio waves, which almost all body sensors, like the ones that Vanessa's husband wears in his wrist, used to connect to smartphones and other wearable electronics, typically radiate outwards in all directions when emitted, resulting in the fact that most energy is lost to the surroundings. The result is a drastic reduction in efficiency of the wearable device, as much of its battery life is consumed just trying to establish connection with another gadget. So again, they're saying their specially patterned metatextile will confine signals between sensors closer to the body instead of letting them spread away into surrounding space. And it's made from stainless steel fibers. And it's actually kind of cool looking. I mean, it looks almost like a decorative placket on a shirt or a jacket, but I don't think that they were thinking about carrying your baby when they devised this. And that is a great question and a great point because, yeah, who knows? And I know the other thing I was going to mention is a long time ago, maybe a year and a half ago, feels like a long time, I heard an interview with a guy who was studying all this, and as part of, he's an entrepreneur, and he was talking about how he carries his cell phone in a pocket on his like left thigh, on the front of his left femur, kind of like a cargo pants type of pocket. And he went and had a bone density scan done, and the bone density in his left femur, even though he's left side dominant in his body, was like 11% thinner than the bone density in his right femur, even though, again, that's the dominant side of his body. So, so yeah, are these waves going out? Sure, they are, right? It's just a question of to what effect.
To what effect?
We're still figuring out. But.
And where? Like what's absorbing it or who? Whom?
Yeah, I know. So anyway, but metamaterial textiles can boost and receive signals and make your internet a lot faster. So, trade-offs.
Exactly. Privacy for convenience, you know, like convenience
for good signal, you know, whatever. Oh my goodness. That's all I've got for today. That's enough to think about, I believe.
It is a lot to think about. And I think we're covering a lot of really interesting stories. So yeah, awesome.